Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome you to the Maiden show, Politics and Beyond. I want you to know that this is a current affairs program that is intended to help us transform the future of Ghana. And I'm very happy that today you are part of history. This is a platform that is going to concentrate on good governance. We want to make sure that our country, Ghana, is created in a way and manner that all of us will be proud of, particularly for our next generation. And so this platform is apolitical, and it's a platform that has absolutely the interest of Ghana as its focus. We want to touch the hearts, particularly of the youth, in ensuring and knowing that they are the future leaders. We want to mold them so that they can take over a better future that will be in the benefit of all of us. My name is Emmanuel Wilson Jr., and I'm going to be your host. This program is going to be aired every Monday in the evenings at 8 p.m. and it's going to be repeated on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. You just cannot miss this because it's a platform that all of us need to put our hands together to make sure that collectively we are building the future that all of us want. Today, we are going to have a conversation around a very important subject, and that has to do with procurement. Whether we like it or not, procurement is one of the major sectors that consumes the public purse. And so if we do not get it right, it obviously means that we are going to waste a lot of the taxpayers' money. And so today we are going to have a conversation on it. You can join us through our social media platforms and handles as is being exhibited on the screen. And we are very sure of having an interactive conversation. Public procurement is one thing, and what goes on there is also another thing. Indeed, if you look at the mission of public procurement, it tells you clearly that it has three main focuses: ensuring that the public purse is protected, ensuring that there's accountability, there's transparency, and there's value for money. And that is actually what we are all expecting from the public procurement. The question we are going to ask ourselves tonight is, indeed, are we achieving this mission that we have for ourselves as far as the public procurement is concerned? I will want to let us just take a little break, a short break, and then we will come back and have a conversation around it.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure.
Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check.
Visit AutoChecks at Koforodia Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. AutoChecks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Check, 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 AutoChecks.
Welcome back, and I'm happy that you are here. Just ensure that you communicate to your colleagues to also join us, whether on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the other platforms. Let us all make sure that we are building a future together. Today, we are going to have a conversation on public procurement. First is for us to know what exactly the mission of public procurement is. And indeed, we want to find out what is expected from public procurement as citizens and as taxpayers. If you look at the mission of public procurement, It has three key tools that we are looking out for. The first one is transparency. The second one is accountability. And the third one is value for money. But the question we are going to ask ourselves is, are we indeed achieving these three things? Transparency, accountability, and value for money. Since 2018 till about 2022 ending, we were able to intercept some documents totaling a little over 400 individual contracts from public institutions, ministries, MMDCs, and all that you can think of, even from that of the presidency. About 400 plus. We have taken the time to study all these documents. And trust you me, I'm here to share with you some of the things that we have found. The first thing we found had to do with sole sourcing and how sole sourcing is being abused. Restrictive tendering, as they call it, some, and how it is also being abused. The second thing that we found from the search that we did out of these 400 plus documents has to do with whether or not there's value for money, whether indeed the taxpayers' money is being protected or the purse is being protected. And the third one that we found, which to me or for me is the most worrying, is where individuals or organizations, state organizations will go through procurement, they will have access to funds, but at the end of the day, you realize that most of these funds were not used to procure what they intended to procure. And we have instances where some ministries could not even account for certain projects that they claim they have taken money to execute. And that is so worrying. Now, in terms of sole sourcing, we found out that we have about an average $2 billion going waste through sole sourcing and restrictive tendering. An amount of 2 billion Ghana loses averagely or annually through sole sourcing. And that is very, very, very dangerous. What it means is that from 2018 to 2022, Ghana has lost $10 billion. And I'm not talking about Ghana cedis, I'm talking about billion dollars. Your tax money, my tax money. That is what we are using. And it is going into people's hands or people's pockets through sole sourcing, right from 2018 to 2022. The studies that we did through the document that we have also suggest that if indeed we had subjected most or all of this contracts through competitive tendering, Ghana would have saved an amount of about 60% to 65% of the taxpayers' money or the public funds. And indeed, I'm sure we would have known what we could have used that money for. Maybe you don't really appreciate what I'm talking about. Let's just look at two instances, how this amount of money affects you and I. We are talking about going to IMF, and indeed, Ghana has gone to IMF. And we are looking out for an amount of $3 billion. $3 billion. Just consider all the conditionalities and the hardships that the conditionalities comes up with. And yet we are looking out for just 3 billion Ghana cedis. And yet we are losing $2 billion through sole sourcing averagely each year. And if we are just looking at 2018 to 2022, we could have just saved about $10 billion. There wouldn't have been any need for us to go to the IMF. The second thing that is an effect of which you and I should be worried over these findings that we are talking about is that Ghana, as it stands now, Statistical Service tells us that we have about 5,400 schools under trees. That is what we have now. The worrying thing is that from 2021 to the first quarter of 2023, that's about March or so, 2023, the Ministry of Education has only been able to produce 17 schools. In other words, they've been able to take out 17 schools under trees. And it means that if you talk about 5,400 schools under trees, and from 2021 to first quarter of 2023, we've just been able to solve or resolve 17 out of the 5,400. It simply tells you, if you do the calculation, that per this rate, Ghana will need over 300 years to be able to eradicate or take away totally the 5,400 schools under trees that we have. But if you ask them, the answer they will give you is that it's because Ghana is in hardship. We don't have money. But I'm here to tell you that it is not factually true. Ghana has money. If indeed we can waste $2 billion each year through sole sourcing, then I'm sure that if we're able to just tackle the issue of public procurement and the corruption that takes place there, 5,400 schools under trees can be eradicated overnight. And let me tell you, this is how it's going to be. Just I think somewhere last 2 years, a private institution in Ghana was able to build a 6-unit classroom block, well finished, for a community in Ashanti region for an amount of 300,000 Ghana cedis. 6-unit classroom block, 600,000 Ghana cedis. Let's do this calculation, very simple calculation. Let's even assume that from 2021 to 2023, the cost has doubled to, let's say, 600,000 Ghana cedis. If we are using today's rate of $1 is to 12 cedis, then we are saying that the 600,000 Ghana cedis will amount to $50,000. Now, if you divide the $10 billion by $50,000, you are going to get 40,000 units of 6 classroom blocks. What it then means is that if we had been able to resolve the issue of sole sourcing, at least, and tendering, restrictive tendering, Ghana could have been able to eradicate schools under trees in less than a year. Let's take a commercial break. We'll come back again, and I'm going to introduce to you the guest that we have, who is going to help us to ensure that these abnormalities are corrected. Welcome back. Look, my guest tonight needs no introduction. Indeed, he's a person that when you mention his name, I'm sure children who are even yet unborn will say that they know the person. When we are talking of integrity, he's one man I can vouch for. This is no other person than you and I, our own former Auditor General, Mr. Domelevo. He's going to help us to have a conversation around public procurement system and corruption and the way forward. Uncle, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Where have you been after leaving office? Unfortunately, leaving office.
Well, I've been around. I remember some people meet me and they ask me, why don't we see you? I said, well, when you build capacity and it's not needed in-house, you use it elsewhere. So around the world, in other countries, providing technical support as and when I'm called upon.
I'm happy that you are here with us. But the truth of the matter is, just like you said, I think in Ghana, one thing we are also, exhibiting so strongly is that biblical saying that prophets are not honored in their own homes. Because some of us have been following what you do, particularly outside the country, and other jurisdictions are benefiting from you. And it's so frustrating that what we need from you, the environment and the system is not allowing some of us or allowing the country to get from you.
True. It's very disheartening, actually, if you go around the world and you come across Ghanaians occupying very important positions, transforming things. I remember about 3 weeks ago, I was in Rwanda, and the gentleman behind their transformation in the aviation center is a Ghanaian.
Wow.
And he was like, oh my God, this thing, I had done it here, but I don't know if anybody will welcome me home. I'm like, oh my God. So it is so much. But many Ghanaians will argue that we have so much of resources, natural resources, but we are not developing. And I say, no, I don't think it's natural resources. The human resource is the most precious resources that any nation or organization can have. So it depends. If you have so much gold, so much diamond, and you are sitting on it and you are idiots, you will remain sitting on it.
I like that.
But you can also find a group of people who are even operating in deserts. There are a lot of countries. They have no resources, but they are harnessing the human resource that they have. So it's painful to see Ghanaians playing so many roles, important roles, outside the country. But back home, nobody wants to see their faces.
Uncle, before we go to our main subject tonight, what do you think accounts for this?
One, the people in charge feel entitled to the positions that they have. And I also tell people that when you meet people who are very arrogant and they don't want you to come near them, it means they are empty. They don't know much. Any person who is very knowledgeable and competent engages. But when you meet someone who says, look, leave this territory, I'm the only one in charge, I can do it, and etc., you know, the guy doesn't know so much. So we have put a lot of square pegs in round holes. And the only way to feel like they are in charge or they are doing it is to keep everybody else away. Otherwise, it will surprise you to see very common sense things which happen all around the world. And we travel and go and enjoy this. You come back home, and you are asking yourself, what is happening here? Like when I was coming from my house to here, right, I ran into several potholes, and I said, which idiot is in charge of this sector? Can't we fix common potholes? Right. People have gone to the moon and back. You and I, we can speak to the whole world because of somebody's brain.
That's right.
Common potholes, we cannot fix them.
That's right.
So what are we good at? You go to, like you are talking about schools. So if you go to the education, it's not good. You go to our hospitals, not good. What are we good at as a people? But that said, at the same time, you realize that we have so many Ghanaians fixing systems all around the world. And when you come home, no, they don't want to see you. Ironically, we prefer an Indian, Chinese, etc. to come and take our resources and go. We don't want to bring a Ghanaian to solve the problem. I don't know what is in your DNA. That's right. We may have to go and review it and see what is inside our brains. There's something wrong, which I've said already. I think it is because people are not competent. We are in a situation where people are just protecting their territories. So when you come near, you may expose him. Exactly. So because of that, they don't want you to come near, especially if you will not join them in the looting brigade. You know, they form looting brigade, and if you not join in the looting, then you are not welcome. That's so right. I think that is the problem. But many Ghanaians want a decent way of life. They don't want to dirty their fingers just because they are doing some public service. No. Yeah. So that is the problem. Bring a new solution to Ghana, be it technological-wise or anything. You'll be frustrated to death. That's true. But you will find the Chinese running around, getting everything sorted for them. You find the Indians. What kind of house is it that the children of the house find it difficult to enter rooms, and strangers are playing in the bedroom?
It's so sad, and I think it's pathetic. My worry is that day in, day out, the youth are losing absolute confidence. But again, talking about leadership, I also believe that individuals or citizens get the kind of leaders that they want. So is it the problem of citizens not being able to decide who will be a right leader, or it is just that the leaders, I mean, we don't have leaders at all in this country?
Well, I believe that we have leaders, except that we have not been lucky with leadership. The last time I was speaking to a colleague of mine, I asked, how come we have 54 or 55 countries put together, and we have only idiots leading us? We can't even say that we have about 10% of this who are doing the right thing. If you have 10%, that will be about 5 countries. Yes. Can you name 5 countries who you think are in Africa who are on top of the game? So I was asking, How come? So we have not been very lucky with leadership. But all is not lost. I seriously think that we may get there sooner than later, because what gladdens my heart is that most of the youth are not happy with the status quo. And when they start challenging the status quo, then we will get the right person to be in the seat. Because if people want this level and you can only deliver this level, clearly you are a square peg. You are not fit for purpose. Right. So you may have to give way. And sooner or later, I think we will get the leader that we require and we move.
I believe so. We will surely do that.
Yeah.
Uncle, let's go straight to tonight's conversation. We are talking about public procurement system and corruption.
Yes.
The way forward. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. Even if I am, with you present, I have to keep quiet. And so, Uncle, tell us about this whole system.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity once more. Government of Ghana, like any other government in the world, collects revenue. It may be tax revenue or non-tax revenue. They borrow monies. They also receive donations from well-wishers on behalf of the people. And all these monies are supposed to go into the consolidated fund. And each year, these monies are appropriated. Appropriated means shared. Shared among the government departments to be used in prosecuting the agenda of the government. So these monies go into construction of roads, construction of dams, schools, factories, etc. for the people. So all these activities which we will normally find in the budget, which people talk about capital budget or non-recurrent budget, are basically procurement. They are done through procurement. You may also see there is another classification of expenditure in the budget which is called goods and services. It's also basically procurement. So procurement is very, very important. But however, no matter how important procurement is, it is also true that it provides a lot of avenue for people to do rent seeking. People trying to finance their personal economic recovery programs as part of delivering these services to us. And I must be quick to say that corruption is multifaceted. Therefore, the fight against it must also be multifaceted. Well, you mentioned one point about public sector which gladdened my heart. You talked about wastage. Corruption and wastage, they go hand in hand in the public sector. And I remember when I was working in the public service, many people know me as the former Auditor General, but many people don't know that I spent 18 years at the Controller and Accountant General's Department. So I've been in the public service for some time. At times, if you see the quantum of wastage that goes on in the public sector, you ask yourself, are people okay? Who in his normal course of doing things or senses will do what usually happens in the public sector? I'm sure you have seen government vehicles, just one tie, having a puncture, and then it is parked. And as a result of it, it's never used. In fact, at times, it is not because the vehicle is even defective, it's because my predecessor drove in that vehicle. So we use it. I have to get a new vehicle. So if you see how procurement is done, many times in the country, you cry for the nation. And I would like to say that as far as I am concerned, when we are talking about value for money, we must look at it holistically. Procurement has got a lot of dimensions. Some look at it in terms of how much did we pay for this bottle of water. If the price is normal or below average, we think we've gotten value for money. But what is value for money if you bought this and just throw it away? Most of the procurement that we do, you see abandoned hospitals, is procurement, that is works. You see dams, or you may see schools that have been built Did you say schools under trees?
Schools under trees.
Meanwhile, there are school buildings that are also not being used.
That's right.
Are we okay?
That's right.
Is something okay with us? That is the problem. So you bought this water half the price. We should clap for you, and you throw it away.
Yes, so
are you normal?
we can see some of the schools under trees.
Thank you.
In this modern era.
Yeah.
This is what is happening.
It's shameful.
And what hurts me is that some of these students, not some, all these students are the same students who are going to write the same set of questions when it is time for them to write SSE or BEC. They are writing it the same set of questions with individuals who are in other international schools and all other. So how do you even set the platform?
There's no even playing field.
Exactly.
Some are so privileged that they go to school in four-wheel drive with a driver every morning, and they drop them. Even their lunch and etc. are prepaid. That's or right. Arranged. They select what they want to eat. They have their cutlery, etc. And others are, my colleagues, are in this type of situation. I can identify with them because I grew up in a farm place. Oh. And I was actually a teacher also in a farm place. And my school was not as good as this one. This is quite an improved version.
Really?
Yes. Mine was so bad. And many times we will be fighting with goats and sheep in the classroom. They also want space, and we will also want space. Yeah. So it's disheartening that in the midst of plenty, there is so much need. Yeah. It is a problem I think we may have to tackle as a country. Yeah. Now, if you permit me,
yes,
I will go through the legal framework and the practice briefly.
Very well.
I'm not going to go into it in details.
Yes.
Because we have to talk about the practice more.
That's right.
First and foremost, I look at the supreme law of the country, which is the Constitution. Under Article 35, Clause 8, it states that the state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and abuse of power. And I think one of those steps is the Public Procurement Act, which is supposed to regulate procurement in the public sector. This act, which was first promulgated in 2003, had it amended or revised in 2016. And today, we also have a regulation to support it, which is the Public Procurement Regulation 2022, to also support it. We have the Public Procurement Authority and the board at the APES, and we have procurement entities, which are the ministries, departments, and agencies. There are also what they call the tender review committees for the MDAs, and for the MMDAs, we have the regional tender review committees. These are all structures which are in place for public procurement.
Mr. Domelevo, sorry to cut you in rudely, but let me also announce to our viewers and probably our listeners that you can engage through the WhatsApp line 0556 999999. It's on the screen, 0556 999999. Send in your messages, send in your comments, and it will be read for you. Yes, sir.
Good. So the next thing which affects you and me is what I refer to as the procurement methods. Okay. The procurement methods. The law provides for several procurement methods. You mentioned the very popular one, single source procurement, which is regulated by Section 40 and 41 of the Act. We have the restricted tendering. We have request for quotation. This request for quotation, I used to joke when I was Auditor General, that's the Trinity procurement method. Father, son, and the daughter, or listen, they collect quotation from the three, and they claim these are independent sources of receiving quotes for the procurement. Then we have the competitive procurement, which may be national or it may be international competitive tendering. Now, let me address some of the challenges I personally had with these procurement methods. We have what they call the price quotation, which you just get a minimum of 3 or a maximum of 6 quotes from independent sources. When you check, usually, invariably, they are never independent. What Ghanaian businesses have done is that they register 2, 3, or 4 businesses. And they have their quotes or the pro forma invoices in the same place. So when the procurement officer comes or whoever you send, they just fill 3 for the person. Fortunately, now the regulation has come out with some additional checks on the price quotation, which I hope maybe may address the issues a bit better. Then there is this national competitive tendering where they may have to advertise it in the newspapers and let the whole country be aware of it. But that depends, it depends upon the threshold. When we talk about the national competitive, we are talking about procurement, which spans from above 1 million to 100,000, sorry, to 10 million. So if you are buying in excess of goods, 100,000 to 10 million, then it is national. Works is about 200,000 to 15 million. Then also we have the international competitive tendering, which breaks my heart. Because what our law says is that if you are going to procure something above 10 million Ghana cedis, then you should do it international competitive tendering. I hope you understand international. It means we advertise for the whole world to compete. How many businessmen in Ghana can compete with even our Nigerian counterpart? Not to talk about South Africa. When the Indians and the Chinese come, we are lost. Is that not it? So it means that any procurement which is above 10 million, which is even less than $1 million US dollars.
That's right.
Is even less than, I think, 900,000 US dollars is even higher than that figure. It means we must open the door for the whole world to compete. And I don't think there is any way Ghanaians will have competitive advantage in this. As a result, you will see that almost all the critical projects of government are going through single source procurement. But before we even go to single source procurement, my question is, if we are going to go international, what should be the reason for going international? Should the reason not be because we have no solution within home?
That's right.
Should it be money? So that I'm trying to say that if I'm going to provide some services, and the amount is small, my children, you can provide that service. But if the amount is big, I'll bring outsiders to come and do it.
That's right.
I can't understand it. I think the driving force, the only factor why we should go international is that we don't have domestic solution to it. I'm sure some procurement officers are listening and they are laughing. They say, oh, this guy doesn't know there is something called margin of preference. What is margin of preference? We've forgotten that. Okay, let me explain it a bit for people to understand. Margin of preference is that because your goods or your services are locally produced, we may say that if your prices at the end of the day or your scoring at the end of the day is maybe higher by maybe 10 points or maybe 20 points or percentage, we will still choose you. That means the foreigners or the external people should beat you beyond 10% or 15% or 20%. If they are not able to do that, then we will still choose you and give you the distance. And we forget that in the tender document and everything, we advertise this to say there will be a margin of preference of 15%. So Chinese government will give 30% to the Chinese to come and beat the Ghanaian. Meanwhile, you are not privy to. You and I are not privy to what their government is going to give them. But our government's, whatever our procurement entity is offering, is in the public domain.
That's right.
So we make a lot of noise. When I hear procurement specialists enjoying themselves that there is a margin of preference, a margin of what preference? There is no preference because there is export drive all over the world. So if they see your tender document, they will carry it to their government and see Ghanaians are going to enjoy a margin of preference of 20%. So we have to go high. So their government may say, okay, I'm giving you 50% subsidy. So if the person is subsidized 50%, and you have a margin of preference of 20%, are you going to ever make it up to the person? So that is one of my first argument to say that procurement is very important for the development of the country itself. In fact, it is a tool for development, job creation, etc. So the more we do procurement, which is ICT, that is international competitive tendering, and giving all the jobs to external people, we are importing unemployment and exporting jobs. And the bad thing with that is that we create the taste for foreign goods, as a result of which, if you are wearing this, they think you are inferior. You must wear suit and jacket, etc. That's why I don't like wearing those things. I want to prove that Ghanaian dressings are good. I go around the world wearing this anyway. And many people admire it and they like it. So procurement can be redirected, such that it can create jobs, it can create opportunities for the local industries. And I was explaining to someone, I said, what procurement officers will tell you again is that, look, even when we go international, and a foreign company wins the contract, we will say that he must have a local presence or a domestic partner, so that there's a local company which is representing. Good idea. How will you feel if you are a lawyer in my house, and I say this case is big, it will bring a lot of money, so I'm going to hire an external lawyer so that he will engage you as a local partner? Why would I not give the job to you? And when you think that there are some skills required, you engage someone instead. So the procurement should be done under the auspices of Ghanaian firms. We must do whatever it can to capacitate. Like I was discussing again with some group of people. I said, look, government knows that, for instance, construction of roads is going to continue to Jesus comes.
That's right.
Is that not it?
That's right.
So we must build local capacity to construct our roads. I don't see why, up to today, more than 60 years after independence, we cannot construct good roads by ourselves. And you may ask, do we have what it takes? I say, yes, we have what it takes. All that we need is government should have something like a plant pool. The big equipments that are needed for this type of construction, government can procure it and hire it to the contractors. Because as an individual firm, it may not be cost beneficial to buy all these caterpillars and trucks and whatnot, etc. Because you may be given a contract of only 10 kilometers, and after that, you don't have another contract. But if government buys these things, you can just go there, you don't buy it. All that you do is you go and hire it, you pay the fees for the hiring, which they use to maintain the items and replenish it if it becomes obsolete. So we can do this and create jobs within, and the money remains within.
Mr. Domelevo, what do you think is the issue for which we are motivated to concentrate on international competition or competitiveness?
You see,
what is the benefit? How does it benefit us as a country?
You see, we do not see procurement as having different dimensions on the development of the country. If you procure well, you can create jobs in the country. We don't look at that. When even they are talking about cost benefit or having a value for money procurement, we don't look at the amount of jobs we have exported. All that we look at is the money which comes in. So the structuring of procurement must go with one of the things that we look for in public financial management, what we call strategic allocation of resources. If the resources are not strategically allocated, for instance, if what we need most in the country are roads, meanwhile we are busy procuring schools, then we are not doing the right thing. If what we need most in the country is water, and we are sending the money into travels, I don't think we are going to be... the procurement officer will say, yeah, we are cost efficient because this bottle is supposed to be 10. We even got it at 8, so we are fine. But what is that 8 bringing us?
That's right.
Is it meeting the needs of the country? So I think we must rethink this public procurement and ensure that we organize it in a way that it can engender development.
That's right.
Just imagine, how many schools are under trees?
5,400.
Let's assume government says, I'm going to build all those schools. Can you imagine the quantum of employment avenue that will be generated directly?
That's right.
Not to talk about the indirect, because once you are building the school, there will be food sellers, there will be somebody driving vehicles, carrying wood, and etc. Indirect is also there, but even the direct. So that is what I'm saying, that if we don't look at procurement strategically, holistically, at the macro level, not the micro, not the buying of cars, buying of... So if we don't look at it like that, procurement may not help us solve our problems.
That's right. I know you wanted to get to sole sourcing, but maybe let me jump the gun.
Yes.
Now, the documents that we have, as I indicated, we have over 400 documents. When you critically study it, you realize that it is literally now anything procurement is reduced to sole sourcing and restrictive tendering. What is really the motivation? Because if you also juxtapose that to the laws that govern sole sourcing, it seems like most of these government institutions are abusing the law.
Yes.
For their benefit, actually.
Yes. And I think with connivance from Public Procurement Authority Board and the institution, I don't think they even help us when it comes to those things. But the truth of the matter is that most of these procurements are not driven by the need. It's driven because people want to get something out of the public funds. Okay? But be it as it may, the law is there. It allows approval. But let's be very careful. If you read Section 40 and 41 of the law, the approving authority is not the Public Procurement Authority. The approving authority is the board. And the law distinguishes the board from the authority. And if you go to the interpretation of a section of the law, it says authority as used in the law refers to the Public Procurement Authority. Then the board as used in the law refers to the governing body.
Okay.
So all procurement approvals in terms of restricted tendering, single source procurement, or direct sourcing of consultancy are supposed to be approved by the board. Now, several types of approval I've seen in my lifestyle. You will see approvals where they write, PPA gives you approval, or you are hereby authorized, or approval is hereby given.
Very true.
You see it on the letterhead of the PPA signed by the chief executive or the acting chief executive. That is one. And anytime I see it, I mark it, and when I was Auditor General, I mark it and send it to my auditors. I say, this is an illegal approval.
That's right.
Because PPA has no mandate to give approval. Then you see another type of approval, in which you see the PPA conveying the approval of the board to the procurement entity. That is, they will state clearly that at the 20th or 30th board meeting held on this, approval was given by the board for you to do A, B, C, D. So the chief executive of the PPA simply does what? Conveys the approval from the board to the procurement entity. But in some circumstances like the first one, I'm told there are several of them. In fact, recently I saw even one, and somebody has written on his Facebook that the people are saying he doesn't have approval. Is this not approval? And I read the approval. I said, this is no approval.
This is not approval.
The approval was given by PPA, not the board. Okay? So that is also there. Then there is a third form of approval, which satisfies me a lot, where, again, the chief executive conveys the approval of the board and states categorically which section of the law and the subsection. Because if you go under section 41, it provides several situations under which the approval should be given. For instance, is he the sole producer of water? That's right. There are no substitutes in town. Is it that there is emergency? That's right. As a result of which we cannot wait and go through the procurement and so. Is it for national security?
That's right.
So those conditions, so you have to state. And those approvals, for me, are the best form of approval. Some of them, they don't have this. Then the last one that I saw, which was very interesting to me, is where even approval is given to institutions which are not procurement entities, like a board of a company or an organization. The board chairman wanting to buy something, writes to PPA, and PPA gives approval. So in one circumstance, I remember I wrote to PPA to furnish me with a copy of the Gazette, which established that institution as a procurement entity. Because remember, the law itself identifies the ministries, department, and agencies as procurement entities, but allowed the Minister of Finance to also identify or grant the procurement entity status to persons or persons. However, he is supposed to do it by publishing it in the National Gazette. He's supposed to gazette that. So I wrote to PPA to give me when was it gazetted as a procurement entity. And they said to me, the answer was very interesting. I still have that response. They said they thought the chief executive delegated to the board chairman to write on behalf of the procurement entity.
This revelation is quite interesting because you see, the documents as I indicated, we have.
Yeah.
The document has a lot of approval not coming from the board.
Thank you.
A lot of them not coming from the board. But there are some few questions that we need to discuss. I want us to take a commercial break. And then after the break, we'll also go through some of the questions and comments that has come from our viewers. And then we'll take the conversation from there. So stay tuned.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural.
Masaka! Easy on your power for Masaka promotion. There isn't a big, or you're big. Separate enter power for Masaka promotion. More day I never dial *274#. *274#. Area now choose power effort. Now select a number of drawer and put there's a whooshim. Draw Krubia 5 Ghana cedis pet. The more as a rush draw them when they stand a chance able to marry in a big. You're big. Every week be also 50,000 Ghana cedis in a chair. 50,000 Ghana cedis. Knock off you, good deal *274#. Masaka. Power for Masaka promotion. It's licensed and regulated by NLA on Caritas Lottery Platform. Kaida drawing Shashada home.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for engaging. We have so many messages that we'll be going through, and the hope is that our guest, Mr. Domelevo, will be able to help us with all these answers. But, Mr. Domelevo, before we even start with this, there's one thing that is very important. And I don't know, as an Auditor General, former Auditor General, you came across it. Some of these sole source projects, we did an investigation and it came up that most of these institutions could not even account for some of these projects that they have taken money through sole sourcing to go and implement. I don't know whether such came to your attention, and if it did, what did you do about it? Or what needs to be done about it?
Oh, yes, you are very right. It came actually to our attention. If you remember, in 2018, I issued a report on government liabilities. And in that report, I disallowed 5.4 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes.
That time it was about 1.1 billion US dollars equivalent. Our verification or audit revealed that some of the contracts, people sign certificates to say that this work has been done, but during the course of the audit, you go down there and you don't find the work done. The construction firms may submit their claim, and then the certification is done by the various officers, and that is not there. If you read that report, you will see that there are several instances we say that the items procured, we cannot even find it.
That's right.
If you even remember the popular Crow and Associate case, it was the same thing that the auditors came with, that they don't know what exactly Crow and Associate did, for which they were paid.
And yet they took our money.
Yes, they took more than, people have been talking about 1 million Ghana cedis. It's dollars, we're not Ghana
They
cedis.
took $1 million.
It was $1 million, it's not
for
Ghana
doing
cedis,
no work.
for which we have no evidence of work done. And that was what we were challenging. And we went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court danced Palogo around the case and then and released them.
What kind of country?
Yes, because the Supreme Court in that case, to be honest with you, I was shocked by their behavior, because the judge referred to the Supreme Court to tell us whether actually that procurement, that activity, was of national security. And the Supreme Court, instead of answering that question, said I should go and verify the things done, because now Honorable Yasafumafu should make the items available to me, or work done available to me. 5 days into that, before they could make it available, the president sent me on leave. And the next day, the acting auditor general cleared that he has gone to see everything is fine. So the issue which was referred to the Supreme Court was never answered, and they just referred back to the judge to say, oh, now Auditor General is satisfied. And that ended the case.
So, sir, there are a lot of questions here. So let us run through some of them. The first one is coming from Kamara. Kamara says, this is a great show. Please ask Mr. Domelevo if there is a new government and he's offered the position of an Auditor General, whether he will accept it.
What a question.
There's a second one. Oh, my God, so many questions are coming here. Mr. Host, good evening to you and your guest. The past Auditor General of this country has one of the best intellectuals, but bad leaders. Okay, so that's a comment coming from Seidu, from Aseneso Edeja Kumase. Okay, so that's just supposed to be a comment. Let's see, the other one says, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, for such an educative program. I'm very sure with this program, corruption, Ghana shall be a thing of the past. We hope so. The name did not come, so that's also a comment. The name did not come. Let me see. Anyway, so maybe we can just ask, we can try and answer this particular question whilst I go through the numerous messages and see which one again we can look at. But there's one other. Please tell him, this is from John Atanga. Please tell him some of us are still proud of him, and he will continue to be our role model. So that is coming from John Atanga. Sorry, the messages are, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, because education. I'm very sure with, okay, sorry, I've gone through this already. I think it is the same person repeating it twice. But maybe a final one from here before we get you. Good evening. Thanks for the good work Mr. Domelevo is doing. In fact, he should be made the running mate to the next president. I don't know. The name of message they don't. In fact, I like this man. These are the type of persons we need to lead this country. People are calling on you to lead. Thank you, former Auditor General, for your in-depth knowledge and your inputs to our economy. My question is, what is the maximum amount of which the Trinity quotation method of procurement can be applied to? The question is coming from Ruben from Ebri. I'm sure you are putting down the questions, Mr. Domelevo. Yeah. The other one says, good evening, nice show, Mr. Domelevo is speaking. Absolute truth. Problem is Ghanaians always enjoy the rot. God help this country. Okay, so that's a comment. The name did not also appear. I think National Commission on Civic Education ought to be up and doing in terms of public education on governance. Thanks to the most respected personality of our time, Mr. Domelevo, for the little education given on procurement and its related issues. This is coming from Daniel Mensah from Kaswa, Adamaso. So maybe I'll just take the very last one since we don't have much time. Good day. I'm learning a lot from procurement today. Sole sourcing can be reduced if the institutions involved in awarding contracts are linked, like GRA and SNIT. Mr. Domelevo.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll answer the question on what is the threshold for price quotation. According to the 5th schedule of the Act, for price quotation for goods, I hope when you say goods, we are talking about cars, computers, equipment, all those movable chattel is up to 100,000. 100,000
okay.
For goods. For works, which is, when you say works, we are talking about construction of roads, building of schools, dams, and etc. For works, it comes to 200,000. And for technical services, 50,000.
Right.
So that is what the law provides. As for the questions about whether I'll become a running mate and...
I think there's one which is quite interesting. Whether or not, if you are given your former position, you want to take it.
Let's get to the bridge, then we see how we cross it. But I don't think I'll be offered that position again. I wish, I think it is a teamwork. Somebody should also come and do whatever he can. I would like to serve the country in different positions, right. Not the same position. Because you go back and at times you don't know what to do with it. But so we are speculating. Yeah. Let's get to the bridge and see how we cross it.
Very well.
And the same thing, I would like to make it clear that on the political one, where somebody is talking about running mate,
yes.
I am not a political animal. I don't think any party which makes a mistake of choosing me as a running mate will win the election. Because on the platform where we are campaigning, I will be correcting them. and
I like that.
And we are not going to success.
I like that. Mr. Domelevo, our time is fast spent.
Yes.
But finally,
yes.
We've talked about all these difficulties, particularly with sole sourcing and all that.
Yes.
What is the way forward?
Yeah, the way forward is for us to have a second look at our procurement practices, not the law. The law is there, but the law is being abused. So we may have to look at the procurement processes once more and see whether it's delivering value for money. Like I said earlier on, we must look at it from the strategic point of view before we come to the macro or the implementation point. We must strengthen our fight against corruption.
Very well.
Corruption is the basic thing here, nothing else.
That's right.
We must strengthen our fight for corruption, such that even if you are corrupt, you can't enjoy the process of corruption. We should make corruption so unattractive that people will say, no, I will not do that. And we must demonstrate leadership.
That's right.
When there are issues of corruption, which even blind people can see, they should forgive me. I'm not being rude against them. Sometimes it is clear that the guy is corrupt. And we are being told again, bring me evidence. When the evidence is in front of you, I don't think we can run a country like that. So we must push corruption to a level where people will say, me, I will not do that because it is very expensive. Until we do that, I don't think we are going to get there. That's why I have advocated over the years that going forward, we must do lifestyle audit. Because people will connive. You see, even the competitive tendering that we are talking about, I didn't talk about it.
That's right.
Through connivance or collusion, they can easily give it to whoever they want to and get whatever amount they want to get. So people will make illicit money out of public funds.
That's right.
So what we have to do is subject people to lifestyle audit. You come to office within 2 years and you are running as if you are a billionaire. What business are you doing? And remember, I also talked with you on one other solution to this fight against corruption, that we should commercialize the fight against corruption.
Absolutely.
So that individuals can go and investigate and prosecute corrupt people, and the proceeds that are recovered should be shared and they receive a good share of it, so that people are living all their lives fighting corruption. And that is all their business.
And that would be a very good one.
Fantastic.
It will encourage a lot of people. And
because nobody is outside the circle in that case. Even if you are the Attorney General and I'm your friend,
that's right.
She may not be your friend and may not be my friend. So she will investigate and send me to court. And when we recover, I think that will help us to make where Ghana is as far as corruption is concerned until we commercialize it. If we continue leaving it in the hands of executives who are under the control of the president or the executive arm of the government, it is not going to be very easy for us. Thank you.
That's right. There are two things that I also got from the testers, and I want to read. One of them says that the law should be amended so that the appointment of the chief executive officer of the PPA would be depoliticized. I don't know currently whether it is purely based on politics or is based on merit. But before you come in, the second one also says that the dominance of the political heads, because of the dominance of the political heads, the act must be amended to allow senior public servants in the various organizations to head these tender committees.
As for amending the law, I'm all for it. There are a lot of challenges with the law. The first one which disturbs me is the fact that the board, which is the governance board, which gives all this approval, has the Attorney General represented on it. In fact, the current Attorney General, Godfred Odami, was the representative on that when he was the deputy. Okay. Now there's one Diana something, a lady, who is also a deputy attorney. She's there. And she's the one who will go to court to prosecute in case there's breaches in the procurement. You know that. And he or she is there. So how do we do it? For instance, will any principal state attorney or chief state attorney be able to send a case to court to prosecute when the approval was given?
That's right.
Together with, normally I prefer say connivance, not approval. The connivance was done together with the Deputy Attorney General. So I think the Attorney General cannot go and do procurement and come back and prosecute.
That's right.
So that one should be done. Again, if you look at even the independent constitutional bodies, their entity tender committee, Attorney General is represented there again.
That's right.
They should move away from that area, because if they are involved, they are the only people who will send us to court.
Exactly.
So it means people will be getting away with murder every day. So I agree completely with the changes that are being proposed.
Very well. I think honestly we will have to have another episode on public procurement. And I'm sure that when the time is due, we'll have the privilege of having you back here with us. Because there are two main institutions where I think that we have to have a critical look at. And the first one has to do with Ghana Civil Aviation. The second one has to do with Metro Mass Transit. These two, there are so many corruption cases going on there, particularly with procurement, that our next episode, subsequent episode, we want to focus on. And we'll need you, on those two particular institutions. And we need you to join us.
At your service.
Thank you so much. The viewers, all of us, will appreciate you so much. But I also want to thank the viewers for making time to join us. Indeed, if you did join us, you need to know that you are part of history, because this is the Maiden Show, and indeed, this is a platform where we are going to transform the future of Ghana. I want to announce to you that this program comes up every Monday, just like this time, 8 p.m., and it's repeated on Wednesday. So coming Wednesday at 11 a.m., if you want to go back and listen to it, just stay tuned to this set, XYZ, and you'll get the same episode coming Wednesday. But next week, Monday, we are going to have the privilege of also hosting the retired old justice, William Atuguba, to take us through some critical issues bordering this country and the future of this country. My clothes is... or my wardrobe is sponsored proudly by These Clothing. These Clothing can be found at Domi Pillar 2. And if you want to contact them, you can reach them on 0244 999 113. Again, if you want to reach them, they have wonderful attires that can fit any occasion for you. You can reach them on the number 0244 999 113. This clothing. I want to thank each and every one of you, but particularly Mr. Domelevo. We want to say thank you so much. At this stage, the best you can do is what you are doing, impacting knowledge into the next generation, so that we'll be able to build a future that all of us will be proud of. Thank you so much, and we want to say a very good evening and also a good night to our viewers.